Hello again, this is Brian King. I'm an entrepreneur and business relationship coach, and I'm here to help executives and entrepreneurs transform the conversation between their ears and between themselves and their peers so they can create more empowered and productive teams in spite of the scatterbrain that they most typically have. So you ready to get started? Awesome, because today I've brought you Catherine Morgan. She's the founder of Point A to B Transitions, Inc. She's a business consultant and consults and is a career transition coach. And in this wonderful economy that we're having, I imagine some of you are experiencing just that. Catherine combines business strategy development with accountability coaching. She's also a professional speaker and presents on topics related to career transition, entrepreneurship, and productivity. I caught one of her presentations on productivity, and it was awesome. Catherine is the author of Relaunch You, Discovering Your Point B and Embracing Possibility. Now, I want to say why I asked Catherine to join us today. Because there are business owners and executives out there who are poor at communicating their vision and goals. And they want to know how to become better at doing so. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Catherine.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian.
It's an absolute pleasure. So let's start with this. Why, in your mind, is clarity important for business owners and executives to have?
Well, I think clarity is actually the most important thing for business owners and executives to have, because if you don't know where you're going, how do you possibly know what to do to get there? How do you figure out what you're going to do in your day if you don't know what you're aiming to achieve?
Absolutely. I'll give you two scenarios. My wife used to work for somebody that I suspect she had ADHD and didn't know it. She was changing her mind every 5 to 10 minutes, and everything she was giving my wife to do was urgent. And then at the end of the day, she would get on my wife's case for not having everything done.
Ouch.
And this was very crazy making, and long story short, my wife quit and now works for somebody else. And there's this wonderful quote, I imagine you've heard it as well, that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Yes, I've heard that.
So the point being that you can go in any direction, and you might be kicking yourself and asking, how come this isn't working? How come I'm not getting the results I want? Well, it's because you haven't formed any kind of clear vision on what your destination is yet.
Exactly. You haven't formed any clear vision on where you're going to go. And also you haven't identified what my friend Patty Azzarello says as ruthless priorities. So, you know, in the case of your wife and the boss who kept changing their mind, you would need to get very clear on what your boss's ruthless priorities are, and then make those your top priorities, because, of course, you know, achieving your boss's goals is part of what you need to do as a good employee, right?
Can you give us a definition of that term? What qualifies as a ruthless priority?
Well, if some internal initiative were the top thing, there's a lot of other things that may seemingly be important, and they may be important because the person who's bringing them to your attention is very loud doing it. But what is, you know, this quarter, this week, this month, whatever the time frame your organization uses, what is our top priority? What are we really trying to achieve that we should throw, you know, 80% of our energy at? What's that?
Okay, so that's a way of prioritizing.
Sure, it is.
Excellent. And with my scatterbrain, you know, I don't make a secret about it that I have raging ADHD. And being clear, sometimes even from one moment to the next, as I pointed out with my wife's boss, is challenging.
Squirrel.
You know, sometimes I'll know that this is exactly what I want to create today, then some shiny object will grab hold and take me adrift. And before I know it, an hour or two later, oh yes, there was that ruthless priority I said I had. I need to get back to it. And hopefully you can give us some tips on tools to use to help us keep ourselves engaged and focused. Now, one thing I remember in our conversation prior to getting together today is you said that there's actually two ways that professionals need to be clear. So what are those two ways?
Yeah, they're absolutely two different types. If you think about it, there's the what am I trying to do for me? What do I really want out of something? But then as you're trying to achieve it, you're talking to your boss or your company or your client if you're a small business owner. The way you have to then say it is different. Let's think about this for a second. So I may be focused on revenue, or I may be focused on a new product launch. So my metrics are how many of these things am I selling, or how many dollars am I bringing in? Well, you can't go to your client and say, hey, Mr. Client, I want to make this amount of money. They don't care, right? You have to say, what are you doing for them? What are they going to get out of it? You know, the big mistake, especially think about software is particularly prone to this. They're so happy to tell you the bells and whistles and the functionality, and the end user cares about what it's going to do for them. How is it going to solve a pain? How is it going to make my life easier? Give me more hours in the day. Get something accomplished that I couldn't get accomplished, right? What I care about is what's in it for me. So as the client, so there's me, Catherine, cares about what's in it for Catherine because, of course, you know, I'm a person. And then I have to get into my client's head or my boss's head or, you know, the head of the company or whatever and figure out what's in it for them and how to give them. So you need to be, like, projecting it and then, you know, how do these guys want to hear it? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That is such an important distinction because I've worked for people, and my wife used to work for a person, that they thought that the incentive they needed to compel you to buy into is do what I tell you when I tell you to do it and I won't fire you.
Yeah, that
And
fear thing isn't working so well these days. Have you noticed that?
yeah, and there are so many people, well, I don't have any stats on it, you know, just personal experience, that still believe that's the way to motivate people.
Yeah, a lot of people think money is the way to motivate people too, but if you've read Dan Pink's book Drive, money is not a great motivator after a certain point, and for certain types of jobs, it's more about autonomy or it's more about building skills that keeps people motivated and engaged.
And what you just mentioned, building skills, autonomy, is what is the key experience or experiences that your employees want to have? You know,
Right.
some people that really thrive in sales is because they enjoy that sense of connection. You know, they love being out there and pressing the flesh and meeting new people, and that's our incentive to keep making those visits. You know, they get invested
Relationship.
in the relationship.
Exactly. They get jazzed by meeting people. They get jazzed by solving their client's pain. They get jazzed by building deep relationships so much that even I'm sure you know people who've been in sales jobs who've gone to different companies and their clients went with them because of the depth of that connection.
Amen to that. People aren't just cranking out widgets, especially in this day and age of the outreach we have through social media and the advent of blogging and how that's really proliferated, that people just want to connect with other human beings again. And there are so many different ways to do it. And, you know, you think about somebody that's a little nerdy, you know, like me and my sons, who can be very tech savvy as opposed to people savvy. If their drive is they want to solve problems, you know, they want to get their hands dirty, they want to be very analytical, you're not going to put them in customer service necessarily because their
Or
analytical
not for
side
long.
that might come off as a little cold, you know, when they're interacting with customers, but you put them in front of the server or the computer and they're your person. That's exactly where they're going to have that need met so they can be more effective and help the overall company meet its goals.
Well, I know you're the communications guy, so I'll give you a great example of that. I used to call myself the translation utility because I had the ability to talk to the coders who just wanted to sit behind their computer and solve problems and build stuff, and the end users who wanted their software to do their stuff. And as you may know, end users and coders should never be allowed to speak to each other ever. They speak utterly different languages, have very different things driving them, are different types of people, and they do not communicate well, Brian. So I used to act as basically the communication utility, translating what the user wanted to what the coder could actually do, or asking the coder how difficult it was in order to prioritize what the user wanted. And that's an example of talking to people in ways that they understand.
Now that's interesting. And I don't know if you're familiar with this movie. It's called Office Space.
I am.
There was a character in there who did exactly what you just described. And yeah, my puppies must have liked it too, because they're just chiming in all of a sudden. But he was trying to explain to these consultants that I have people skills. I talk to the customers because the engineers basically can't be trusted to do so. And this was a guy who couldn't describe very well why he was valuable to the company, so they ended up firing him.
Oops.
But yeah, in your case, when you understand that, the customers have certain needs. Are their needs going to be met by talking to a coder? Probably not. So it's helpful to have somebody there in the middle to translate in order to better meet the customer's needs.
Right.
So you have all these different people with different needs. You have the customer's needs, you have the boss's needs, you have the employee's needs. So what are some techniques that professionals can use to really clarify their vision to all these different people?
Well, I'd like to talk about small business owners in this example, okay?
Okay.
So small business owners, my favorite group to pick on these days, and I apologize if it were hitting a chord with any friends of ours, are people who are dealing with small women business owners, okay? There's a whole niche of coaches and consultants who are helping women business owners create a business and life they love, to get the freedom to spend time with their family and have work-life balance and blah, blah, blah. Now, if you are a member of some group, as I am, a bunch of women's group or women's speaker groups, and people post about what they do, people in this space sound exactly the same. They're not taking the time to dive a little deeper. Women business owner, wow, that's a really big pie. Or women building eBay businesses, women building consulting businesses, women building websites, women building, I mean, what does it look like? Is it an armadillo or a rhinoceros? I don't really know what that is. So as we're talking about clarity and getting back to the question you actually asked, it's asking the deeper question. Who do you work with? Women business owners. What kind of women business owners? Women business owners building lifestyle and fitness businesses, or some good age group, demographic, type of business, industry, something, anything. Give me something to work with, right?
Yeah, because if I start talking about, well, I've got the best IT solution for your medium-sized business, and I'm talking to an accountant that works by himself, I'm going to be talking over his head. I'm messaging entirely the wrong person because I'm not clear on my audience.
Right. And I think there are a couple different pieces of this. There's what we just walked through, which is the keep asking questions till you get defined. And then there's the part where, well, I have this thing that could work here and here. And once again, and I'm actually kind of prone to this myself, I work with people in career transition, but I also work with people in consulting business. And you're like, doing the finger wave. You're like, no, Catherine, that's two different niches. But not, because the people I work with are out of professional services, financial services, or technology. And when they're looking to make a change, they're naturally considering both options, because they probably had a business development role or a marketing role or something. So often within the same conversation or within the same client over time, they will switch to, I'm going to pitch some projects, or I'm looking for a job, or no, I really want to commit myself to my business, but then my friend sent me this great job, and they do this flip-flop. So, what seems like I'm doing the scatter shot is actually one group. But I would urge people to, in general, narrowing your focus is better. Why? And this goes for job search and executives and small business owners. The narrower you can get it, You know where to focus your time. We're back to the focusing your time part, right? It's exhausting to market to multiple niches, exhausting over the time frame. And it doesn't really get you more opportunity because your message isn't clear, because you don't know who the end person is that you're targeting your message.
Yeah, the broader the market, the more general you have to be. And this is one thing I learned through my own studies of marketing is you want your clients to self-identify. You want them to look at your marketing stuff and say, that's me. And if it's too general and they have to think about it, it's not clear enough.
I know, I joke. I know you've heard me say this before. If you're trying to be everything to everybody, you're nothing to nobody.
Absolutely. And when it comes to bringing things closer to home, when you're having to communicate your vision to an employee, let's say, and you really have to get that person excited about it. So it's not just about a paycheck. It's not just about another task they dread doing. If you can really get a sense of who your employees are, what they value the most, then you can begin asking questions like, hey, are you up for a challenge? You know, if that's something the person's into, you ask them that, then you get them thinking, yes, I love a challenge. You get them feeling that emotion, then you give them the assignment. And now they are attaching their favorite emotion with what you've just given them to do.
Yeah, or
And
get them to buy
helps
into the vision that the company is going to get to that next level, and you'll be a contributor. A lot of people are very motivated by being part of the team that created something, right?
Absolutely. Having something, some skin in the game of creating something bigger than yourself. That's why there are some people that do volunteer work, because they feel like they're helping thousands, if not millions, of people. And in the context of a work environment, same thing. They like to help other people succeed and know that they had something to do with that. And the more you can connect your vision with the outcomes people want to experience for themselves, just as you said at the beginning, the more likely you are to get buy-in to that vision and get the rewards that come with realizing the vision.
Right, exactly.
So if somebody really wants to stand out, you know, they want this vision to be compelling as opposed to boring. Are there certain ways to communicate it that would make it much more outstanding?
Yes. As we discussed initially, the clarity. What exactly are we trying to achieve? Why are we trying to achieve it? What will it look like when we get there? You know, we should be able to see it, smell it, taste it, you know, feel what that is, okay? And then the question again?
Yeah, well, I definitely hear where you're going. It was about how can it be much more outstanding? How can you help the clarity stand out? And the one thing that you already hit, which is wonderful, is make it an all-encompassing sensory, emotional experience. Can you taste it, smell it, touch it? Can you see it in front of your eyes? Can you imagine what it would be like to have this outcome in your daily life? And wrapping it up with so many experiences like that can really get people excited.
Yeah, my mentor, Michael Port, always says in your marketing copy, you need to approach things from, he calls it FEPS, F-E-P-S, financial, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And you need to be, even if you sell accounting services, you can hit, you know, financial, I'll help you save money. Emotional, I'll take the worry, you'll sleep better at night. Physical, you're going to feel better, more productive, more energized, less overwhelmed, less shut down. Spiritual, you're going to know you're going to be on your right path with your business. I mean, even something like accounting services can hit those four categories.
Oh, absolutely. And I've always been pretty lousy when it comes to balancing the books, you know. And one thing I look for, I just recently hired a new accountant, and when he tells me about all the ways he's going to lower my stress, he's going to save me time, he's going to keep me out of trouble with the IRS, and he's solving not only these problems for me, but he's also helping me find peace of mind, inner calm, things that I value.
Right.
So he gave it to me just exactly the way you described. Now, one thing I'm curious about is, in the business world, you mentioned Michael Port. We all tend to have our role models, the people that are out there doing it well and doing it correctly. are there any people out there that you think really articulate their vision well, that the rest of us could look to get a real-time example of people that are really getting it right?
Yeah, certainly Michael is one to look at. He is the master at articulating what he's working on right now. It's his heroic public speaking. All his content is around there and is really interesting. I would say Pamela Slim is another person who is terrific at articulating her values. She's building off her body of work book and talking about the new world of work and tying the string around your experience to all the different things that you've done in your life to tell a coherent story, and she's really great at doing that as well.
And I know one thing that I've noticed, I'm sure you have too, is because the blogosphere, the information that's out there is just so fast and furious these days, that there has to be something really unique about what you're putting out there. As you mentioned before, these women businesses who are selling widgets on eBay or something, and they all seem like a dime a dozen. So I hear people talking about authenticity nowadays, be yourself. But is that really enough anymore, or do you need to do more?
Well, I know we all kind of roll our eyes at the be authentic word now because we've heard it too much. But let's look at you for a second. You actually embody this and are a great example. You don't hide your ADHD away. You put it front and center. You put it as a differentiator. A lot of issues with you are things that you're very, very public about, and because you choose to be, and they're part of your brand. And then you go and you take them and you put together that superhero caricature, which I absolutely love. It's so you. And it's just perfect and quirky and fun and interesting. So I would say to be interesting, don't be bland, don't be blah. Let me give you a personal example of mine. Everybody finds it amusing that a chubby middle-aged woman dances tango. So I actually have a video of me dancing tango in Argentina on my website. Now it's not, you have to look for it. But when I took it down, I actually got some complaints from people because people thought that just little bit of quirkiness, along with all my business qualifications, made them get to know me. They trusted me. They felt like, I came in as more of a friend with that. They thought it was, and men and women equally look at it and comment on it.
I am so going to have to go look for that video now.
It's under About Catherine Morgan on the website. You can find it.
One of the things that you and I both know, not so much authenticity per se, but one of the big core features of everything that I do and what I stand for is to really help people learn to connect through their humanity. Not just, we both like sports. We don't know much about each other, but we're going to get together every now and then and shoot the hoops. I don't know anything about your life because the superficial way of knowing each other is sufficient. I talk about getting at the deepest levels of connection. And when it comes to people self-identifying that your brand is for them, my whole push is to create as many Me Too moments as possible. They say, she likes a tango dance? Me too. She really wishes that, people could be more organized. Man, I'm really just a mess. I could use a lot of her pointers because I need that too. And she does it. The more Me Too's people experience in relationship to your vision and your brand, the more likely they are to become a customer of yours because they feel connected to the person.
I absolutely agree with everything you just said, Brian. And I get a lot of positive feedback on my speaking about that because I do a lot of times I'll just throw myself under the bus for something stupid that I did or some lesson I learned the hard way, or I'm not afraid to poke fun at myself or the issues we all face. And you're exactly right. That plays really well with people. They're like, oh, she's a real person. She has real challenges. She gets it.
Yeah, nothing makes anything that you or I have to teach more accessible to a person that we're teaching it to than realizing that we too had to struggle to get there. Because
I struggle every day, don't you?
every single day, sometimes twice as much on Wednesdays. You know, it really varies from day to day. But when people, they see us on the platform, they see us holding ourselves confidently, and they think that we popped out of the womb like that. You know, they didn't realize that we had this story of adversity, of lessons learned the hard way, but that we made specific decisions. We connected with specific resources. We took specific actions, and lo and behold, we created these results that we are now teaching them to have. You know, the more human we are, the more they realize, you know, if Catherine can do it, I can do it. I'm just as human as she is.
Exactly. Can I give an example of that?
Please.
One of my signature talks is called Relaunch You, Lift Off After Layoff. And in the opening of the talk, I stand there and I look kind of smug, and I'm like, I feel highly qualified to talk to you about this topic today. And everybody sort of shifts in their chair a little bit, like, what does she have? I'm like, I was laid off 3 times in 4 years, never for cause. And I learned a lot in that process that I can share with you today. And I just got everybody's attention, right? Because I'm not standing up there as the expert who's never been laid off, who came out of HR or whatever. I mean, I was laid off 3 times in 4 years.
See, and even if you would have led with a whole lot of alphabet soup after your name, well, I have a PhD and an MBA and blah, 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 they wouldn't have cared if you had not had that experience.
Nope, but I just got their attention. They're like, oh, wow, she understands what I'm going through right now.
And nowadays, and this just kind of came off the top of my head, see if I'm in the ballpark here, is when I coach some of my clients on spiffing up their resume, I encourage them to do something in their cover letter or throughout the resume to write a compelling vision of what they hope to create for the company when they are hired for them. So when you're talking about people that are being laid off and having to get themselves out there in an even more highly competitive marketplace, do you ever offer suggestions along that line?
I do. I always try to frame, I too do resumes for people, of course. So in the professional summary, I try to have some description of what their value to the organization is going to be, or a little bit about what they're like as a professional, what their best skills are, what they bring to project management, you know, on time, on budget, delivery, able to manage competing priorities, able to work within defined budgets, you know, something that's more than just the laundry list of best skills, but why, once again, why the company should care, what's in it for them. We're talking about the positioning and communicating your value again.
Clarity, clarity, clarity. So what do you think, what is the bottom line takeaway that we want everybody that's watching this to walk away from?
Ask one more question. Ask the next. I work with small women business owners. Who? What kind of small business? What kind of industry? Always remember to ask the next question and keep digging until you're at that kernel of truth, where if you said it to a 6-year-old, they might get it.
So you want to be operating with a laser beam instead of a flashlight. You need to be that clear and that focused.
If at all possible, I would urge people to try that.
And if things are not working and getting the results that you are looking for, it's probably because you're not clear enough. You're aiming at too broad a target. So just like Catherine said, keep asking those questions until you get so specific. If the people aren't operationalizing your requests the way you want them to, it's probably because you're not clear enough. So the outcomes you're getting are probably one of the biggest indications that you need to step back, take a look at your vision, and see if it's as clear as it can be. Now, Catherine, I've already told everybody how brilliant and wonderful you are. So if they want to learn more about you, and specifically if they want to see that tango dance, where can they go online to find you?
Well, my website, it's a little long, but people tend to remember it. Point A to point B, transitions.com.
Wonderful. Point A to point B, transitions.com. And I know Catherine is also on Facebook and Twitter. You want to check her out there as well. I follow her every day and look forward to her tweets and her posts. And if this broadcast today has been helpful to you, please feel free to share it all over the World Wide Web. And feel free to stop by my website, which is brianraymondking.com. Send me an email. Let me know what you thought. Go to iTunes. Give us a 5-star review if you think we're worth it, so that more people can find about what it is we do. And please feel free to join me next time for another episode. Until then, thanks for being you.